Jump like jelly. Jump like jelly. Jump like jelly. Jump like a jelly. Jump like. This state of emergency is still emergency. Here's how young you young. Supposed to be not you alone. And society might be afraid of you. We are you. We feel you. But that. This line is now on hold. The recording has started. Peace, family. It's Brooke Miles. I'm joined by my good to have pint son of the third and my brother James Baum, Public Enemy. We want to go ahead and get started. As we know, we have a lot of people on the line and a lot of people still getting on. We don't want to belabor the time or take too much time having you all that are on standby. But we do know that the Grammy Awards is on, so we got people watching the Grammy Awards and all of that. So understanding that everybody won't be on it at the same time is quite all right. People will join as they can, when they can. But we do want to at least get started. Excuse me. For anybody that's new on the line, we're going to do a little something different for a quick moment before we bring our special guest on. I wanted Halftime and Brother James to join me real quick because I think, you know, these two, Brother James, of course, was there from the beginning, the inception of the idea of a conference call for anybody that's new on this conference call line, which is now a live podcast, and I am happy to come give you all a quick little update on the podcast archives, because we have an entire year's worth of archives of all of 2017, all of the guest speakers, I think with the exception of the first one with Freedom Williams. We didn't even think, unfortunately, at that time to record it. It was a new idea to bring artists as special guest speakers onto a platform where we basically became the TED Talks of hip hop. But that particular episode, if you will, of interview call, that January, I believe it was 22nd, was not recorded, and unfortunately there was a technical issue when we featured our brother Cole 187, Big Hutch from Above the Law. But I wanted you all, Halftime and James, just to kind of go over a little bit, if you will, right now, the first 3 weeks of 2018, and what does it mean to you all? Halftime, why don't you start off with that?
I think right now, as a place, as the coalition, where we actually can start putting things in motion. We've had a lot of peaceful conversations prior, but we're now at a point where we can actually start, we have enough information, we have enough people where we can galvanize, we can start now putting things in motion as far as the solutions that we talked about, bridging those gaps and making sure that we know our land to preserve our community and our culture.
Thank you so much, Brother James. Tell me something about, you know, these first 3 weeks. I mean, the first 3 weeks of this new year, I think, has been, I mean, not just the magnitude of the guests that we've had has been incredible, but I think it also kind of, you know, is a sign for you and I as the ones who were really blessed to come up with this idea in this format. But I also think it's a sign for all of those that have been a part of it for really the 2 years that we've been on. I mean, we started this once again, and let me just get this backdrop. This platform was started after the 2015 murder of Mario Woods out here in San Francisco by members of the San Francisco Police Department. So we got a lot of people that's on. We got people that are on for the first time that are listening, and they may not understand how this platform got started. And I think we have to keep it out front because it's not just a line where we're interviewing artists. It's not just a platform where we're featuring not DJs, but they are influential members within the culture. But this is a very unique platform in that the idea was, between Brother James and myself, was we need to call some key individuals within hip-hop, starting with Chuck from Public Enemy and others, because we noticed that there was minimal outcry regarding the murder of Mario Woods, December 2nd, 2015, out here in San Francisco. Well, why would that be a concern? Because this young 26-year-old black male was literally executed by a firing squad of police. 5 out of 10 officers discharged their weapon on this one young man with a kitchen knife 5 to 6 feet away from him. It's the most horrific thing you could ever watch. It's not a movie. It's not television. That was real life. You could watch it on YouTube. But what we also noticed is that there was not only was there minimal outcry from sports and entertainment, but there was also a massive media blackout. It wasn't on CNN like Ferguson was, or Baltimore was, or Houston, Texas, with Sandra Bland, or Ohio, Cleveland with Samir Rice. It was not on those major news media outlets the same way. So the only way that you all would know about it is if others that you respect, that you may follow or catch them on your timeline some kind of way, put it out front and begin to highlight the horrific, brutal, bestial murder of Mario Woods. So that's where this idea was, to have a conference call. And it continued every week. We kept this conference call growing, and we realized that these murders were, Brother James, you were the one that said this won't be the last one. And unfortunately, your words proved to be true. They continued to go, but the murders continue to happen. But then also hip-hop continued to respond. So, Brother James, with that backdrop, the continued response and the growth of this platform, just give us a real quick, in the next 2 minutes if you can, some of the things that stood out to you, over the last, couple of years, but then specifically, what does these first 3 weeks say to you? Because, we kicked it off with DMC. We came behind DMC the following week and we had Ice-T. We came back last week with legendary Davey DMX and DJ Hurricane. All addressing the state of hip-hop, the state of the black community, the state of the world. And you got to do that because hip-hop is global. And it affects the world and it influences the world. It's the number one influence on the world, particularly with the youth. But is there a need for a cultural revolution? That's the topic of discussion, and it continues to grow. Give me something. Give me your thoughts on that, Brother James, real quick before we bring our guests on.
Yes, sir. Peace, family, and everybody listening in on this particular night. This is really special. We have not the age coming on, but what stands out more to me with 2018 is that when I think about, black culture, why is black culture linked to violence or linked to gang violence, and they call it black culture, when it is linked to anything negative, it's linked to black culture. Those things stand out in my mind, but culture as itself is a set of things that people do like learn. But when you think of black culture, you should look at it more and the influences of what we have, and it's amazing. For the first 3 weeks of this new year, some of the things that came across the news, some of that. In my analogy of some of the things that's going across the news right now is that my biggest thing is I want to see our people united. That's what I want to see. It doesn't matter to me who's the most popular at the time, but if we unite, then all of us are popular. If we unite, then we all stop the madness that's going on. So that's one of the things that stick out like somebody like that artist. I just like to say that's it. It's what we do right now. And I'm saying each and every person that's on the platform. It's what we do right now is determine the outcome of our situation. And I think that's going to be the key for 2018.
Yes, sir. I appreciate your words. Halfline, I appreciate your words. I want you all to stay on as a part of the round table. We also have our big brother Freddie Williams on the line as well as a part of the round table this evening. But I don't want to take up any more time. I think it's important for us to start early with our guests. I know James, you've been doing some research. Credit or attention or respect and honor. I mean, I believe he does within the what you would consider people call the underground hip hop scene. But I think this is somebody who is a vast talent, somebody with some deep insight. I mean, not only is he somebody with a gift, I think he's somebody who has a deep spiritual eye from the things that I've gathered by watching interviews and listening to him over the years. But in particular, you know, the whole idea of concept albums, you know, things that have a storyline where every aspect of the album or the project, you know, is threaded together very intricately and tells a vast story. It's almost like scripture where you can read it and think you got it. But then time and circumstances in your life cause you to go back and listen again or read again, or like the words of the minister, you listen to him again. And it's like layers of an onion being peeled back. You get a stronger aroma. I think that's how Master Ace should be viewed. Because I think as time has gone on and projects that stand on their own merit, you can go back and listen to, but you'll get more out of them now, probably than when they were released. So at any rate, we'll talk with him, we'll dialogue with him, but we definitely want to hear his thoughts. So Master Ace, I know you're on the line. We want to hear your thoughts on the state of hip-hop. We want to hear your thoughts on the state of the black community, the world, and the need for a cultural revolution. So we want to welcome you, Master Ace, to this live podcast, this live discussion. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you for that very illustrious introduction. I appreciate that.
Yes,
man,
sir.
you gave me a lot. You put a lot on my plate just now. The state of a lot of things. Maybe we should go piece by piece.
Oh, by all means. I mean, you know, I've watched the making of disposable arts on YouTube, and I had to watch that in pieces and kind of digest, because I'm somebody personally. I don't know, Brother James, Halftime, Freedom. Y'all can, you know, chime in and speak for yourselves on this, but you know, I watched The Bourne Identity. I watched those type of movies. You know, Shooter and Annapolis, Michael Clayton. You know, I like those type of suspense movies. But more so for me, I like to watch and look to see the making of these movies and how, you know, Lawrence Fishburne and Keanu Reeves trained for The Matrix. You know, what Mark Wahlberg had to go through to learn the little idiosyncrasies of a sniper, the intricate details of a sniper, so that he could best sell that character or be really that. You know, so I kind of watched the making of disposable art from that vantage point, and I learned more than I knew, more than I ever knew, because I loved the way you revealed the process, and I loved hearing people, Wordsworth, Punchline, and others bear witness on your process and how they didn't even see the vision. They couldn't grasp where you were going, but as time went on, you know, it made sense and the story came together. And
talk a little bit, if you don't mind, just about that and that time frame and the time in between, the project previous and that one, why you took the time off, what you saw as the state of hip hop then, and, do you see anything similar? Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse in terms of the state of hip hop now?
Well, at that time in my career, I was definitely very much disenchanted with the music industry. I had just been working on an album for about 2 years straight that had gotten shelved by Atlantic Records, and I just really felt like nothing good was gonna ever come from me being an artist. I felt like the only way I was gonna really make a difference was behind the scenes, and so I embarked on a mission to get behind the scenes. I started trying to be a producer. I started shopping beats and trying to, basically find my way behind the scenes in hip hop. And it wasn't really until around 2000 that I felt a renewed energy to go in, and I felt like I still had something else to say. And at that time, the industry was really just looking for cookie cutter hip hop that chased what Bad Boy and P Diddy was doing at that time, the music that they were doing, and that wasn't the kind of music that I felt like I wanted to do, and so I felt like the only thing for me to do was to try to change the industry from within, and that's how that's why I was off from music for that period of time.
When you say that you had gotten basically a renewed spirit, you got reinvigorated to get back in, what was it that caused that?
I'll tell you a couple of two things. The first thing was I had went down to Philly, to Philadelphia, to Jazzy Jeff's studio, and he had a studio, Touch of Jazz, and he was working with, he had about 3 or 4 production rooms in that studio. And each room, he had this stable of talented young producers. Each room, there was different producers working and creating music. And I just saw the love of the music again. I saw people working together and collaborating, going from room to room. Let me hear what you got. Okay, I got something for that. Check out this. This might match with that. And I saw that. That got me excited. And then I went to Europe for a tour. I had about a 13-city tour through the United Kingdom, England, and I went out there really not expecting much in terms of the shows, only to find that each night was a ram-packed club full of people who loved my music and wanted to hear more from me. And it was kind of the combination of those two things that got me rejuvenated again and back into wanting to record.
Wow. Would you say that, and this is just a quick kind of deviation from where I wanted to go next, but because you mentioned going overseas, and I know Brother James and even Freedom and others, but on the line now, Brother James and Freedom can bear witness, and I'm sure Half-Pint can bear witness as well, but you find that overseas there's more of a cherishing of the culture at large, and is that the biggest difference with overseas and the United States?
Absolutely. There's an appreciation for our history and heritage musically that is unmatched, unrivaled over there. They hold our music heroes up in high regard, and we continue to hold them up. Here in the States, the mentality is once there's this mentality that you somehow play out, or you're no longer a viable artist because of your age and because of how long you've been in it, and it's all about the new blood. And if not for Europe and Australia and even Canada, a lot of us artists wouldn't be able to survive off music.
Yeah, I think it's Brother Marley's saying, I'm trying in on here. Peace, my brother.
Yes,
How
sir.
you feel?
Peace, brother.
One of the things I think is important, and he's right on it, is that overseas kind of like, preserves, like we frozen in time overseas. And I know one of the things Chuck used to always say while we were traveling is that every black person in America.
I think we just lost James. Something may have happened to his phone, unfortunately. But Freedom, you're on the line. And I know that you have been recently overseas. You see the same thing. I know you did I think you just recently did a European run, didn't you? Yeah. What up, Eddie? How you feel, brother? What's up, Freedom? How you feeling? Chilling? Good, man. Yeah, leave weight, man. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I'm dropped, man. I ain't understand that.
You're back home. You back home? You want to finish, James?
Yeah. I definitely. And Freeman, you can chime in on this here. That the appreciation for the art form in Europe is definitely very well preserved there, because you can walk on the street and then it's down to the letter. They know every person in the group, or they know everything about you. It's like they study it, and you're like, wow, man, we really researched it. But it's just a love and appreciation for what you do, and it's really big. Even when Public Enemy kind of like slowed down in the States, we just kept traveling the world. We just kept going, and we was going to places that we hadn't gone into, like Iceland and Russia and Estonia. I mean, we just was continuing to go. So, and then being invited to like China, Beijing, China, by the cultural minister, and Cuba. We couldn't go to Cuba because we had a prior engagement, but we was invited by their cultural minister. So those things like that, sticks out in my mind, because I see some of the notable things that Master H has done overseas, and working with some Croatian producer, Kool-Aid, so I see that you have gone over there and really start to work with some of the producers and stuff, and then they appreciate, you even more. So that's one of the things I wanted to ask you in this. How did you appreciate some of the producers overseas?
I mean, those guys, there's some incredible talent over there. You mentioned Kool-Aid. When I heard the first time I heard his music, his beats, I couldn't believe that he was from Croatia. It didn't add up, because the music it was real true hip hop. It was musical. It was hard. It was boom bap. It was all of the above. And, I don't know if those producers get enough credit for what they can do, because there's just so many producers here. But I think a lot of those guys would knock some of the household names out the box, the newer guys anyway, if they ever had a chance to produce for artists over here in the States.
Yeah. And see, the more you go over there, and the more you be over there, it just opens you up to the world. And the Master Ace, hitting the world like a slug to a chest. That's a beautiful thing, because you're known for your witty words and stuff like that. But the music, man, you can put that up with anybody. And that's one of the things I enjoy about your music and your wordsmith, man. And plus, I got to say this here, we both born in December.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to bring Freedom back in, because Freedom's getting ready to chime in. But James, and I know Freedom had just came back from overseas recently. But I want to kind of dig into this state of hip hop part, and not just touch it from the United States, but also because I've never traveled. Whatever I've seen from regarding hip hop overseas has been through documentaries, or from my conversations with James and Freedom and others. But what we do know for a fact, and of course hearing the minister and the travels that Minister Farrakhan has taken and how he's talked about the awesome power of hip hop and the influence of hip hop all over the world and the need for cultural revolution. He said that hip hop's potential is to be the light that produces revolution. And when you talk about revolution that's actually taking place throughout the world, it's the youth that are at the front line or the vanguard leading the revolution, and it's the youth that is totally infused with hip hop. So if we can get the right messaging, and I want to get into the way you put your records together, with the whole idea of the coming out of prison and the idea of graduating high school and going into college. I like the way that you set all of that up, and I want to get into your mindset behind it. But Freedom, on traveling abroad and what you see and the impact of hip hop abroad, touch on that a little bit, would you?
I really wanted to hear that the Ace, but I will elaborate. I've always seen the European scene. I go there a lot. I actually thought about moving there last summer, and I might do it this summer only because I can work so much more. You got to remember, America is a very monolithic society, right? Even though you have New Orleans is different from, the Fifth Ward is different from the Third Ward, or 6 Miles is a little bit different from 8 Miles. The Bronx is different from Brooklyn, right? I'm from that side. The Bronx, to me, is a different world. It's like going to an alien planet. It's like most icy cantina. It's just bananas. So even though we have different varieties of culture and speech in America, it's still monolithically American. And the only other thing that counts is that culturally, on a national scale, is Canada to the north and Mexico to the south. Other than that, there's nothing else possible over here. When you go to Germany, like I have friends all over Europe and almost all over, and they all speak 4 languages, 5 languages, 6 languages. They speak French. A brother living in Germany will speak French. He'll speak Spanish. He'll speak German. Someone living in Estonia will speak, Croatian. He'll speak a different language because, going from New York to Jersey is like going from Spain to Italy. Like going from London to Scotland, which is connected to each other, is like going from Florida to Atlanta. And so they just see things in a broader perspective than Americans do. Americans are isolated, which also gives us this false sense of security and this false sense of arrogance because nothing competes with us. We were able to build this empire, isolated from the world, and do whatever we want. And so we don't see things globally like other people do. You look at North Korea and South Korea, and they're essentially the same people. Then it's an isthmus or peninsula coming off of Japan. And so you have China, and you have Mongolia. I mean, we're really by ourselves, and they create this one false sense of pride and arrogance, and 2, this globalism that they just don't suffer from in Europe. So when they hear our music, if you go to Japan, I mean, they love our culture so much because I call Asians white Africans. I call Chinese people white Africans, what I call them. And Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us the black family, the black, brown, red, and the yellow. And if you look at the way Asians function, it's got a different rhythm to it. So if you look at the way people from Eastern European, remember, the Russian culture is only in the 13th century. They were controlled by the Mongolians. The Mongolians were olive toned. Some of them were very dark. Some of them were almost Negroid looking in terms of how you denote a phenotype. But America is isolated. So we don't have all this cultural movement going on. People come here. New York, the melting pot, right? You've got Jamaica, the best of the Jamaicans, the best of the Trinis, the best of the Haitians, the best of the Russians. The best of those people, but it's still New York. They're still all trying to be American. But Europe is different, right? So they have a tendency to appreciate other things. And then they don't get American culture. They may get African culture, Algerian culture, Moroccan culture, but because we're so far away from everybody else, what we do is a phenomenon. Like, we live on a different planet than everybody else on planet Earth. We really do. We got to see ourselves as being isolated in the middle of the Atlantic, and there's nothing else over here. So when they see us, they gravitate to us because they're like, wow, an American has come over here. Because remember, they're used to coming here. We're not used to going there. They all migrate to New York, to Boston to go to school. So when a guy like Master Ace goes there, they've been watching him on television. They've been studying him. They've been, Americans, why are they so powerful? They have so many buildings. So we're like the Wizard of Oz. And I think that lends a lot of substance to why we're revered over there when we don't get the same respect here at home.
I appreciate that insight, and here's why I wanted you to chime in, because I know you were beginning and James was off the line at that time. So I appreciate you chiming in, and Ace, I appreciate you allowing me to have Freedom come in and chime in on that, because what I wanted to do, because we've heard from Freedom and we've heard from James on the Public Enemy travels and his personal experiences, but both James and I, you know, we studied some of the footage and the interviews and the documentary that we could get online, and you know, I like the way that you ended the video. The name of the song escapes me. Good Old Love. That's the name of the record, right? So the video, the way that video ends. And I don't know if, and I wanted to get some clarity on it. I'm assuming that was actual show footage of various venues, and I wanted to find out where was those actual venues that matched the words you were saying? Because after you said L.A., San Francisco, then I think you shot overseas, and you started naming some of these locations, and the footage would change with every name of a location that you would mention. Was that actual footage?
Those are photos from actual shows over the past probably decade or so that have been taken. We started about 2004 or so. We started at the end of our shows. We would take a picture with the crowd, just kind of showing the crowd. And we had all these photos. 10 years worth of photos from different shows around the world. And so at the end of that video, I basically just sent the video director, 50 different pictures of us with different audiences. We took the best pictures that were the clearest and used them in that spot in the song where I'm shouting out all these different, cities around the world. He didn't match up specifically. This picture was from this city, but we've done shows in all of these cities that I named. So essentially,
yeah, and I think it sends the message. You know what I mean? It sends the message, and I think that's really the important part, and that's really where I was trying to go, because you kind of see that the crowd, even with Public Enemy, and you get such a mixed bag of people that come to these shows. But everybody is unified under the banner of hip hop. So you don't get the funk, you don't get the drama, you don't get the fights. I mean, maybe you get a little fight or whatever, but you don't get the ugliness that you see, unfortunately, among us as a people, and it's the negative stigma that came with hip hop was that it sparks violence, and people can get hurt, people can die at these hip hop shows and all of that. But when you actually see the truth, is that hip hop has a way of uniting people. Hip hop has a way of bringing people together because there's a frequency, there's a God frequency when you tap in and you're actually manifesting from that higher infinite power to heal our people, that acronym that people turn hip hop into, higher infinite power, hip, healing our people. Hop. You understand what I mean? Like that, I personally can bear witness to that, but unfortunately here, you now have this, you use the term cookie cutter at the time that you kind of got disenchanted with it, but I kind of see it similarly, but I wanted to ask you, from the time that you took time away to right now, have you seen, do you see it similar as that time where things are really, there's a pattern that they're promoting, that they want to produce? Do you see that there's, okay, so you see it similarly, but do you see that the condition has greater potential for good? Do you see us at the brink of disaster? Where do you kind of see it now, here, primarily within the state? And then what do you think we need to do to snatch back and preserve the culture of hip hop?
I think that things are worse for this reason. Radio now is different than it was 15 years ago. There was a point where there was something called the mix show, where the mix show DJ would come on Friday night or Saturday night, and he had full and complete freedom to play whatever records he liked or wanted to play or expose to the city. And somewhere along the way, that changed, and now the mix show DJs are basically forced to play whatever is on the normal, regular daytime playlist. And so what winds up happening is we lose a great deal of variety from what our listeners and our young people could hear. And I point specifically to young people because they're the ones who are getting fed the majority of this music that's coming on the radio. Older people, we know that a lot of older people over 30, over 40, they don't listen to the radio anymore because they know that they're going to hear the same songs over and over and over again. They might turn it on just to catch the Red Alert or Chuck Show Out or Marley Marl or DJ Mr. C playing an old school set, and then you have to turn the radio right back on. But it's just, I worry about our young people because I see the influence, and it bothers me specifically in New York, where I'm seeing, young 18, 19-year-old young kids that want to rap, and they're rapping like they're from Atlanta. They're rapping like they're from Louisiana. Like, they're making music that sounds like it's not from where we're from. And that's where that influence has come from, because now the radio is just playing one thing. And we had a lot more variety in the 90s than we do now.
No, I agree, and I want to ask you in that, with that as a backdrop, and then I want to have Half Pint chime in, because Half Pint not only is a member of Son of Dessert, but Half Pint is an educator, and Half Pint, and anybody that's on the phone knows that we keep Half Pint very close to us, because Half Pint keeps her finger on the pulse. She has no choice. She's engaged with the youth on a daily basis in Roosevelt. But I wanted to ask you before we bring Half Pint in, because she actually is helping to develop. She already has curriculum, but we want to develop the University of Hip Hop in Roosevelt, because Master Ace needs to be able to be what do they call that? A resident, like Ninth Wonder and Young Guru have like a resident professor thing happening at these schools. Yeah, well, we need to have that on the virtual side, like University of Phoenix. You can go to Hip Hop University on your laptop or your cell phone, and they need to be able to hear from Master Ace, Freedom Williams, Chuck D, Wise Intelligence, Freddie Fox, Half Pint, Lady of Rage, etc. But just based on what you said, Master Ace, what do you think? Because we're in a very unique time where everything has been consolidated. You know, we basically can use in war terminology that the enemy has hunkered down, right? So you don't have the delicious vinyls no more. You don't have Fourth and Broadway. You don't have Priority, Profile, or what have you. They've hunkered down. They're in war mode. So what does our war mode look like to combat the fact that you got this? I think I said this last week, Brother James. I actually thought Designer was from Atlanta until I saw Designer on Nick Cannon's Wildin' Out. I'm not even gonna lie. That's when I found out he was from New York. I had no idea. I actually thought that he was from Atlanta. So I think you're right. I think we're hearing a sound that, you know, the South is dominating. Now we can get into whether that's by design and or whether it's just the fact that they're producing the best music right now, whatever. But what do you see? What does our war footing look like to combat where we are? I saw an interview you did, I think it was with 24/7 Hip Hop, where you talk about having to use, you know, technology, you know, but you actually have to be very proficient. You have to be on top of, you know, all your platforms because you're basically wearing every hat now. So you can truly be independent. You can truly exercise your artistic freedom. But in order to combat or in order to keep your name out front as, you know, with attention on it, you have to literally be on top of everything. What do you think we need to do to combat this so that our children and our grandchildren are not just being saturated with this madness that's really, you know, our what's our brother's name? Brother James, who did Poison to the People. Kyle Jason. Yeah, he did a song called Poison to the People. And that's really what's happening. What do you think we need to do to combat that? How do we as a hip hop community combat that?
We need to move away from our reliance on commercial platforms like radio and like television. Those platforms, they're going to always be there, but we as artists, now more than ever, can sell our product, sell our music, sell our message directly to our fans without having to listen. And in my opinion, that's the direction that things are going in. There's going to be a point where you're going to be able to sell your product, your music, your artwork, your merchandise directly to your consumer. And in that same sense, sell your message directly to your consumer without having to rely on the radio to get streamed. And you're seeing it happening more and more. It's really in its early stages. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ryan Leslie, which developed this app called the Superphone, where you basically control your entire merchandise and music network directly through your cell phone and sell your products directly to your fans through your cell phone. And it's a brilliant idea. We just signed up for it just this past week. But we're about to embark on something that's going to be really revolutionary in music. And when bigger artists get wind of this, the Jay-Z, the Beyonce, the Kanye West, get wind of this, you're going to see a complete revolution in its music. And I think that in itself will bring down and total and complete collapse the commercial radio network.
And you said this app is called the Superphone?
Superphone, yes.
Superphone. So people can actually look into that now, sign up for that now.
They can sign up for that now. It's 3 levels, 3 tiers. It's a $9.99 a month. And there's like one for $19.99 a month, and there's one $200 a month. Which is a full blown out one where you actually get all of your data. In other words, if somebody buys your product or downloads your music, You get their name, their address, the city they live in, their email address, and you can directly contact that person and say, yo, been looking out, thanks for the purchase. I'm going to be in your town doing the show, such and such thing, you come through. And when fans get that type of interaction from artists that they love, it just takes it to a whole nother level.
Wow, I got it. Got it. So Half Pint, let me have you chime in real quick, Half Pint, for while we got a few more minutes. Just on the youth side of things and with the curriculum, the impact that you're having, but also what Ace just gave us. I want you to chime in a little bit because I think you're keeping your finger on the pulse of the youth and engaging that high school age, that high school youth on a daily basis. You really keep us abreast and up to date as to what's really going on with them and how best we can reach them and engage with them. So share with us a little bit about what you're doing. Share with Ace and everybody that's online about what you're doing, but also tie it into what he just said.
Yes, peace, everybody. Master Ace, what's going on? One of the things that is important is that me creating that curriculum for hip-hop, the history of hip-hop, was because I wanted to be able for us to continue to preserve the culture so that, the commercialism that exists does not dictate to us what hip-hop is. We now, with this curriculum, we control the narrative. And we're educating the young people about the history of it, not just from the musical standpoint or just the rap standpoint, but from the social, economic, political, and social standpoint, where they actually are connected to the African diaspora and they learn their history. Talking about going back to what you guys were saying as far as how it is overseas, it's a reflection and almost indicative of how, other people outside of our community outside the country kind of respects our culture more than we kind of do. And it leads back to the education piece. And with my young people, I like to introduce this with an idea that we're learning about knowledge itself. We're learning about preservation. We're learning the history. We're connecting it to our everyday lives, but also them understanding what their roles are in the community so that they can preserve it. Going to what you were saying as far as with the new app, if they know what their role, they know better, they do better. So then they can actually, if they're interested in the music business, if they're interested in, merchandising, or they're interested in any kind of business, they will be able to connect to these kind of technologies and be able to build and, again, dictate what the narrative is instead of somebody else outside the culture telling them who they are. And that was really the important piece of me actually creating the curriculum in the first place, because you have other people, you have these documentaries, you have these things that are telling them what hip-hop is. You have now these reality shows that are talking about hip-hop, but they have nothing to do with hip-hop. Not even, maybe they'll throw in a musician here and there, but they don't really have anything that's not reflective of who we are and what hip-hop is and what the culture looks like. There's so much more to it, and I want the young people to understand that. And in building the virtual piece, I think it's an opportunity for us to expand the message, and creating these forums are important so that this way we can understand what they need and what they want from us, what they need from us, so that we can make sure that there's a connection. Because bridging that gap, as we've been talking about for weeks and weeks and weeks, is very imperative, because it's been said so many times that there's like a timeline on a hip hop artist. Once you get a certain age, it's like you're old and you don't matter, when you don't see that in other genres of music. So as a culture, we have to learn how to respect the elders and the pioneers, so that this way, they can teach the young people, so they know what their roles are and what their expectations are to preserve it, so that this way we don't have so much destructiveness coming out of it. I think our young people right now are suffering from some mental illnesses that are related to that whole crack epidemic. These are the offspring. These are the great-grandchildren of that time period, and we don't know what the ramifications are. We don't really know what those results are. So we have to now kind of take in consideration what these kids are thinking, what they're saying, what was going on, and how to support them and how to help them without necessarily prejudging, but also trying to get into it to figure out how do we support them and how do we continue to show them what their role is so we can get out of it. Because again, if you do better, you do better. And yeah,
that's right.
Side note, I want to ask you to participate in this university as well.
I would love to.
Well, thank you, Half Plan, for chiming in with that. I want to, ask Ace real quick, and then Brother James, I'll come right to you. Given all that we've said and all that we've talked about, and the perspective that you've given to us on this call and everybody listening, we talked about the state of hip hop. And when you talk the state of hip hop, you can, I think it's reflective of the community. And you talked about, the global perspective and the impact and even the great appreciation overseas. But when we talk about a cultural revolution, you touched on it. You touched on it. But I would like to ask you, when you think of or when you hear the terminology cultural revolution, because Nina Simone said that the role, her view was that the role or the responsibility or the duty of an artist was to reflect the time that they find themselves, to speak and to reflect the time in which they find themselves. And so you can ask yourself, what time is it? And you can look around and get a gauge of time, and then we can kind of see what we should be expecting from the artist. Cultural artists have always been at the vanguard of social change historically. But you almost find, you find a disconnect until things get very, very extreme, very, very blatant. The Philando Castiles, the Alton Sterling, the Sandra Bland, the Freddie Gray. But we've seen so much despair and death and destruction in our communities for so long. Now you're just getting outright, hate crimes when it comes to the Laquan McDonald's, the Corinne Gaines, the Mario Woods, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What does a cultural revolution mean to you, and what does it look like to Master Ace?
I was just with a friend last night. It was my wife's birthday. We had some people over, and during we were playing games, just having a good time, laughing. And during that time with my friends hanging out, one of the brothers kind of stepped off from the group, and he was gone for a while. He was on the phone for a while, and then he came back walking in. He didn't want to play anymore. He was sitting on the side. Eventually, I found out that one of his really close friends had just gotten murdered in Brooklyn, and in the project over in East New York. And he was, he's broken up about it, but it was almost like, yeah, you know how it is over there. That kind of stuff goes on, and the guy who did it, they know who did it. So eventually, they're gonna wind up getting him and all this kind of stuff. And that's the norm in our community, unfortunately. And I'm speaking in general terms, but to me, a cultural revolution, and the way it looks like the day when those types of incidents are not the norm anymore. And that's what we need to be striving for. We need, it bothers me. If I'm from the project, I'm from Brownsville, the neighborhood that I'm from, I haven't lived there for 3 decades. But I was told people that still live over there, it's worse than ever. It's worse than ever. These little young dudes shoot each other every day. And that's troubling to me. And that revolution that you speak of, in my opinion, has to start from within us, from within our community, from within us. We got to get our shit righted. Our behavior, right, has to be correct against each other. There's no reason for us to be aiming guns at each other. And this incident that happened yesterday was, from what I hear, it was over $10. He owed him $10. He didn't want to give it to him. Like he was disrespecting him. And he wanted to kill him with that with $10. Now, come on, man. Like, that's a mentality. That thinking, that way of thinking, that way of being has to change. And the problem is that way of thinking and way of being is being passed on generation to generation. And there has to be something that interrupts that thinking and changes the trajectory of our people as a whole. And that's when we can talk about what the cultural revolution is.
Real quick, before I bring Brother James in, I appreciate that answer. And unfortunately, that type of story, as you said, is in fact the norm. That type of incident is in fact the norm. Whether it's New York, whether it's LA, whether it's the Bay Area, whether it's DC, whether it's St. Louis, Chicago, it's unfortunately, any hood USA, whenever you find us as a people, that tends to be the normal, to the point where we're desensitized by it. Yeah. What do you see now? That as a community, and I agree with you 100%. I think it has to start within. I want to ask you, as an artist and as somebody who uses the spoken word to inspire, to enlighten, to enliven, to encourage, to educate, to make people laugh, to make people think, to make people, move. What do you think hip-hop's role? What is hip-hop's role in that cultural revolution?
That's a great question. I often wonder what would have happened if hip-hop had continued on the path that it was on, and Public Enemy and X-Clan and Poor Righteous Teachers and Boogie Down Productions were making the music that they were making. What if those artists and groups were the Jay-Z's of today, and their message was the dominant message today? What would our community look like if rap never came into existence? What would our community look like if drug dealing rap never came into our community? And I think we all know the answer. And I think we all know that we as a people, as a community, would have been much better off in that scenario. So when you say what can hip hop do, to me it's in the message. It's the messages in the music that need to reach the people. Unfortunately, if we have to rely on commercial corporations and commercial radio push that message, it's not going to get there. They will not air these positive messages. I still remember when Kendrick Lamar dropped the "I Love Myself" single right after, at the height of his career at that moment. He dropped "I Love Myself" single. I thought it was a dope record, and I heard it on the radio like 2-3 times, and then never heard it again. And I was like, what happened? What just happened just now? Like, this record was a nice record. I loved it. It was a super positive record. It was saying I love myself. Why is this not on the radio every day? I should be hearing this. I should be getting banged over the head with this record. But I'm not. I'm hearing some other nonsense. And it just shows me that there's an agenda outside of our control that won't allow those messages to reach our people the way they need to.
See, that gets back to hunker down. If you, and I don't mean to keep extending, Brother James, but I think that just gets back to the hunker down mode of the enemy. You understand what I'm saying? They're in war mode, and they have hunkered down. So then, what should our response be? Because we have to have a response. We can't be in what they call defense mode forever. And so, and by no means are we saying, which I'm not trying to put it on so tough that, we're saying Master A's got all the answers. This platform is really designed to create and spark the discussion and to let people know that this discussion is actually taking place. It's a little different than the Breakfast Club. It's a little different than, the other platforms. But I think it's needed. I think it's absolutely needed. We have to have a plan. Public Enemy is still here. KRS is still here. Brother Jay, we've been blessed to have Paradise on the line and drop major jewels, right? We had Culture Freedom. We have Wise Intelligence. They've been on these calls. So Culture may be on the call now. I don't know if Wise Intelligence may be on the call now, but the point is, and we had, Freddie Fox, the Lord Jamars, and Do It All, and Raheem Devon, and so many others that have blessed us with their thoughts and views and perspectives on the same very question. I think that it's on us to think about it and to even spark the thought, in those of the listening audience, not just on this platform, but in the music, because people have to, and I think the time and I think that circumstances have prepared people to receive such a message. What do you think of? I personally, that's my thoughts. But what do you think? And Brother James, I know you wanted to chime in, but Ace, do you think that time and circumstances have, how you tenderize a steak? You got to have a mallet, to beat the shit out of a steak. And I think that time and circumstances, have done that. Whether you call it, us brutalizing, fighting and killing each other, whether you call it the police brutalizing our people, throwing young pre-teenage girls around at pool parties and pulling little girls off of bicycles and out of their school desks and throwing them across. And you've seen this. You swipe up and down, left or right on your social media. You're seeing this. And it's like tenderizing. But have we become sensitive enough now where enough is enough? And it's time for us to unite and stand up as one voice and address these matters. I think that hip-hop has a very pivotal role and a vanguard position to play. The question in my mind becomes, do you all accept the responsibility to be the light bearers, to use your mics as lightsabers? Are we ready to go to war? Do you know what it means to have a revolution? You know what I mean? I just think that we have to go on the offensive with this and not continue to suffer losses. You have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, everything you said is absolutely on point. It's a difficult question to answer at this point, and when we talk about being on one accord, being on the same page, a lot of times we can't even agree to the simplest things, let alone
right
things that are so huge and so major and so important. So it's clearly something needs to happen, and it needs to happen soon. But I feel like the tenderization of our psyche is happening as if now new United States administration has been in place for a year now. I think that more than anything has opened our eyes to what's really happening around us. And as much as, white supremacists are so happy to get their new president in office, all it's really done is awaken the people in a way that maybe we wouldn't have been awakened had it been somebody with a little bit different or less harsh agenda. We're actually forced now to be a little bit more awake to our surroundings. And so it's actually helped us. It's almost like, I could use an analogy. It's like whatever neighborhood you live in, you have a nice house, you let the kids go out and play. The full sense of it. It's a nice neighborhood, everything's cool. But as soon as you find out that the guy across the street is a child molester, your whole psyche and how you deal with where you live and your kids being outside playing changes because now you're on guard. You know you have to conduct yourself in a completely different way in your neighborhood. And I think that we're starting to realize that we got to conduct ourselves in a completely different way. Not all of us, but a lot of us.
Beautiful. I think that's well said. So James, we're getting ready to... Oh, yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
Everyone chime in real quick. You know, we're continuing. We really, hip hop again is the vanguard, like you said. It is where we're picking up where, you know, the civil rights movement, the black liberation movement, and all those movements prior to us have left off at. You know, in reality, we're having the same conversations that our grandparents were having, our great grandparents. These are conversations that have been continuing to happen. These things continue to happen. And one of the things that, some of those things that were existing and that were in place, that we put in place, we just have to continue to put those in, you know, the boycott, doing for self, making sure that, you know, we have enough platforms in this technology that we can do a lot of those things for ourselves to put our own products out and to preserve those areas and those things. I think the next step is, like, that will have to be revolutionary. On top of that, so that we're making a bold statement to say, the solidarity, we're not going to take this treatment. We deserve better, and we're going to do better for ourselves, and we won't need to depend on you. So at some point, you know, we need the solidarity because I think there are some people that still believe that, you know, racism doesn't exist or that, you know, classism doesn't exist. And those are people that think that they're exceptions to the rule because they have a couple of dollars without necessarily realizing that money that they're spending out of our community to be put in the community to build a stronger community so that this way we won't have these same conversations. We won't have to be at the behest of those brutalities that we continue to face.
Well said. Thank you. I appreciate that, and thank you for chiming in. You're absolutely right. You know, I think that the one thing that I would add is, although there are so many similarities in terms of the cry of our people, you know, there was police brutality and police murder then, there's police brutality and police murder now. There was disrespect of self and kind then, there's disrespect of self and kind now. I think that the difference now, though, is one of the differences, is, I think to me, the biggest difference is that we are living in the fullness of time, in that there is a generation of youth in particular who are born right for this time. This is the youth back then is not the youth of today. The youth of today is not the same youth of back then. Unfortunately, back then, you know, the go along, the get along mindset was so strong. And it continued for generations, which is why many of the older people now, they don't know what to do with today's youth because they're not born to go along, to get along. This is a youth that's really, that they're totally fearless. You're dealing with a youth that's fearless. They don't care about life. They don't care about death. It doesn't move them. They're not afraid of nothing. And that's the type of youth that really is going to get us to where we need to be and forge the way to a new beginning for our people. But we have to have the messaging and the right guidance for the youth, because as long as we leave them out there fearless, not afraid to kill, not afraid to die, if we leave them out there, the enemy will turn that energy, that fearless spirit into a self-destruct modality, and that's what we're seeing, which is why I think hip-hop has to play a vanguard position. And I think when you see the Kendricks, the J. Coles, the Joey Badasses, the Big Crits, the Lecraes, and others, I think they're a sign of something very powerful to come. But I think, as the Holy Quran says, it's very clear, old men for counsel and young men for war. These youth need to be guided on how to fight war on the level that we're talking about. So, Brother James, real quick, and then we want to give Master Ace an opportunity to close out with any closing remarks that he may want to have. Brother James, I want to give you an opportunity to chime in before we go there.
Definitely. Everything was well said from each and every one of you on that topic. One of the things I think with our young people, and like the Honorable Minister Farrakhan said recently, is that this is the best generation we ever had because they're fearless. And because they don't care about life or death, this is a must, and we got it, like the Mao said, young men to war and old men to counsel. But the generation that will move them is our generation, not the age and freedom. We moved them because we were born in a time where the 60s, in the 60s, that was the Black Power movement at that time. And we were born in that. One of the things Mr. Farrakhan said to me when I was like 24 years old, the first time I met him, I came to Washington, D.C. from New York to represent Public Enemy. And I sat there and he said something about the young people from the 60s, that their parents were under so much pressure during the Black Power movement that they produced children of destiny. So our generation is a bridge towards the young people as we learn how to speak their language. See, once we learn how to speak their language, we can connect with it because we can spark the spirit of the next Chuck D or the next Master Ace, the next Stephen Williams, or the next whomever that's going to take it, because somebody my age talking to somebody, I got to start the one who's the same age as the easy birds, the soldier boys. And once we do that, then they'll correct themselves, because you have the H.Jack Brown, they was all students. Now they're the leaders. You had Kwame Ture, who's Stokely Carmichael. We were all students, young people, who sparked that revolution. So today, in 2018, you have a similar situation, that the youth are really different than they were then. Much more powerful, much more reserved, and not afraid to stand up to whatever comes their way. I had a young man told me one time, and it blew my mind. He said, I would want to get old. I want to die young forever. I was like, whoa, what kind of man is this? 25 years old. So, as long as you live, you're going to get old, But it's what you do within your time frame and how you influence somebody. So I really think, how we look at a big picture. And, nothing happens without focus. And if we break that big picture down into small goals and take it one step at a time, I think we get there with this generation.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Brother James, for chiming in. Freedom, I know you're back on. Before we close out, give Matt Ace an opportunity to give any final words. Was there anything you wanted to say or ask or chime in with before we go to Matt Ace for his final words?
Yeah, everything is, on point. And it's just, I got nothing to say. Time it ain't nothing to play. Something going on in the streets got the people crazy. Mom says the seeds caught up in the fray, the beast they lay, and the act they display. It breeds a contempt which is worse than hate. But wait, let me take you back to the gate. Feel your fate. It's only 8:38. I need a dirty 38 so I can blast your face. A massive race, cause we all massive race. I'm on the roll like a swole Master Ace.
If it's for everybody that don't know Freedom, tell them where that's from and why you did those lyrics, Freedom.
Man, well, that's a Freddie Gray. You know, that was a Freddie Gray song video that I shot. You know, because that's the purpose of the whole, you know, the movement Hip Hop for Justice, based off of our brother out in San Francisco. And you know, I just, you know, I don't know how I was so touched by, you know, Freddie Gray. I mean, I've always been active in the community, but Freddie Gray was something different. You know, I looked into his eyes, and I was like, you know, Prince did a song right before. His last song he did was a song for Freddie Gray.
Yeah, Baltimore.
You know, that was his last song, on that day. And it's funny because Prince died the same day Freddie Gray died a year later. People don't know that.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. And you know, everything we do is based on universal functionality, man. You know, I was thinking earlier how, you know, as you were speaking, I was thinking the other day walking down the block, and I was saying to myself walking down Fulton Street, realizing this system can't hold us. And it goes back to what Master H was saying earlier about how the system, you know, the commercial music. And I'm saying to myself, well, I done produced a group called Black Knights with Asiatics, Sincere, Sir Abu, now there's Black Just, who was Carmelo Anthony's brother. You know, and I've been in hip hop, I've done dance, I've done any kind of music. And I look at it, and I look at a Diddy, and I look at a Jay-Z. When you think about musically what Jay-Z has done in terms of a businessman, there's been no white guy that has even come close to matching that. When you look at what Master P has done musically, or what Diddy has done in terms of music and business, there's been no white counterpart to what we produce in that. There's been no white guy, no white musician, no Waylon Jennings to grow up and do Ciroc, do Sean John, do Empire. And I realized this system can't hold us. It's not big enough for us. So when I hear Master Ace and he, you know, and he eloquently talks about commercialization, and then, you know, Half-Pint talks about the youth, we're bigger than anything he's ever created. And this is why we have so many conflicts, because we're trying to fit an elephant into the size of a peanut. And I can do hip hop, I can do concerts, I can do hardcore, I can do dance, I can do, and I'm saying to myself, damn, I got 13 albums nobody's never heard. Because they can't, the system that we're looking, like Master Ace said, the commercialization of our music, it can't hold a Master Ace. Master Ace is too much for the system. The system was built by devils to contain the original man. How's that going to work? It can't hold. So you see, and when one breaks through, like a Diddy, or, you know, we look at Diddy, oh, he's so loud, he did this, he got that. You can't contain our creativity. It's too much. I literally, me and 3 dudes literally built an entire house together. Like, the whole house. Structure, foundation, the plumbing, the whole thing. You can't contain who we are. And so when we talk, when Half-Pint talks about the youth and getting us motivated and bringing, and if we don't separate from this system, like Half-Pint says, we will be having the same conversation. He can't contain us. We have to have our own everything off the jump. Because as long as we're in a system that, remember, we're the original man from beginning to end to beginning. There is none either way. We're dealing with a universe that's only a space and time. So, you know, I put Master Ace in that verse because I've always thought of Master Ace as an artist that was bigger than the industry he was in.
Right.
I've always thought of Master Ace as a bigger personality, and such a big talent that it causes sometimes confusion to the talent creator, because you're wondering to yourself, wait a minute, what's going on? I did all of this. I know I'm better than him. I know I'm better than that.
Right.
And you start to get frustrated because the system cannot manage your degree of mean, just think about town for town. We have created every form of culture. Without us, there would be no culture at all in America. Think about if there were no black people in America. They want us all to leave immigration bill. If we all left tomorrow, white folks would be like, oh my God, come back. There'd be nothing. There'd be no music. There'd be no sound. There'd be no culture. America would be Pleasantville. Until we can have our own completely own army, own school, own education, everything, we're always going to have this same conversation, commercial music. Why can't I do a dance record? Why can't I do a pop record? Why can't I do a hip-hop record? Why can't I do a country record? When I grew up in hip-hop, there was no distinction. You bought a Queen Latifah album, she had a reggae record, she had a dance record. You know, you're doing a Heavy D record, he had a dance record, he had a house record. They can't contain us, and when it does, it forces us into these small conversations, tribalism, tribal, he's got this, and we're too big for it. We created country music. There'd be no country without blues. I said this last week on the conversation, there's a musical form called skiffle. I got 10, 15,000 records on my garage. There is a musical art form that very few people know about called skiffle. It's playing the washboard, taking a spoon, and then you take a giant jug and you blow on it. That's an entire musical form we created that they have completely washed away, that the Beatles studied and created their sound from. It wasn't even R&B and blues, it was skiffle. There's a dude that invented a car before Henry Ford did. Henry Ford actually got the idea from me. Think about that. I saw a picture on the internet of this black dude that made a car in 60. He was a black dude that had his own car line he was developing. Nobody, his cars looked like they was out of the Jetsons, yo. It was so crazy. So I'm just adding to say that, I'm going to roll like a slow Masta Ace.
My brother, Razor, I appreciate those words. Man, that's the big brother right there. He always got something of knowledge to say, something very substantive to add to the conversation. I appreciate that. Masta Ace, we want to thank you for being on. Thank you, Freedom. Thank you, Half Pint. Thank you, James Baum, and everybody listening. We want to give you an opportunity, Masta Ace, to close out with anything that you may want to say. And then, of course, anybody that's on this line that is not following you on social media, please give us all your social media platforms that people can follow you. But any last words or final words that you would want to share?
Absolutely. I'll start with just the social media. I'm on Instagram as Masta86, PITS, and my Twitter is with Masta Ace, and my Facebook is Masta Ace Official. I have a new project coming out. I'm working with a producer named Marco Polo from Canada with several songs, with about 15 songs. DJ Premier is going to do 1 or 2 extra records for the album. I'm really excited about this record because it's really, I got a song in there called American Me, and another song called Sunken Place. It's a couple of joints on here that, I really want people to hear. So I'll leave that at that. I'm also in the process of writing a screenplay. I have a potentially a television pilot I'm writing. I'm also writing a stage play for a company called Roundtable Beats. I'm in the process of just expanding my writing to try to reach people. I urge anybody out there who's an artist to look into Superphone app. This direct-to-consumer is the way that we need to be headed. We need to cut out the middleman completely, so our music directly to our fans, and get our message directly to our fans.
Absolutely. Actually, a few people even texted me the link while we were on the call right after you got done talking about it. Yo, yes sir.
You heard what Masta Ace just said? You understand what I'm saying? Masta
Ace
said, I'm doing a movie. I'm writing a script.
Right.
I'm taking the plane to the moon. I'm gonna build a
Right.
They can't hold that. What you gonna do?
That's right.
What is the white man gonna do with that? He ain't never seen nothing like that. He ain't never seen nothing like Tragic Gaddafi. He ain't never seen nothing like Killer Mike. I don't care who they produce. You not producing that. It's impossible. So when Master Ace is going through his creative, stigma, trying to figure out what move that I make, he's the God in him is basically saying this universe ain't big enough for me. They can't hold me. Like Diddy said, can't nobody hold me down. He just got the bullet system. But Ace is right there on the heels. He just gave you 8 things he's doing, and he probably does it blindfolded, standing on one foot, eating a burrito. You can't do nothing with that. You can't do nothing with that, but let him rock. And that's what I'm making. We always gonna find issues with the system because the system is terribly flawed in how it deals with our creative flow.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. The minister said something like this. He said, their time is over. The time for the wicked to rule is over. They are now in our time. And this is our time. And if all of us would take a little bit of a verse or two out of a chapter of the book of Master Ace and hear what he said and apply it as we're doing what we're doing. I think that everybody that's been a part of Hip Hop for Justice is similar to Master Ace because and you know this, Freedom and James and Half Pint, the ones that are now. I think Vic Mensa and Bishop Lamont in terms of the now names, you know what I mean, are a part of what we're doing. But it's been the legendary artists or the artists that have, come out in the early 90s, late 80s, some even in the mid 80s. So I think that, we are attracting to ourselves people that are like-minded. And I think as we continue on pushing forward, we continue to manifest like what Master Ace just gave us. And I would like to go back though, Ace, because you mentioned your album. Is there a date that we should be looking for the release of that project?
Yeah, it'll be out this spring. I don't have a date yet because we're still finishing up records and getting features and all that together. It'll be out this spring though.
Beautiful. Well, once again, brother, thank you so much for spending some of your Sunday evening with us and blessing us with your presence and your knowledge and allowing us to benefit from your knowledge and your expertise, your experience, your thoughts, your views, your perspective. Thank you so much. Brother James, my partner, my brother, thank you. Half Pint, thank you so much. Freedom, always a pleasure, my brother, and everybody that's out there listening. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
One more thing. Yeah. Let everybody know, are you an official member of the Juice Crew?
I'm official from the standpoint of that's what the fans have. The fans speak. The fans are the ones who make those decisions. As soon as that symphony video came out and I walked in the bar through them doors and my name was across the screen, I was officially a member. Only person that I wasn't a member was Fly Tyrone Williams back in the day said that. And he said that out of anger because I wasn't down with his management company. He said Ace ain't Juice Crew because he ain't down with Superstar Management. But I was smart enough to know that I couldn't have a manager and the label be the same person, and so I didn't sign.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
It's a very smart move. No, it's good. I'm glad you mentioned that because the Juice Crew reunion is going down February 11th in Philadelphia.
That's right.
Anywhere near Philly, come on out. Check out the Juice Crew.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that, Brother James, because that's what I was telling you Charlie Mack was doing. We had Charlie Mack on the line. And that's the show I was talking about, Brother James. I'm thank you, Freedom, for even asking that. I totally blacked out on the whole Juice Crew reality. So thank you for to bring that up at the end.
Because when you think of that age, like you said, he's like Capadonna to Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
Wu-Tang, what it is Wu-Tang.
Yeah. I got it.
Me and Biz supposed to work on a record. He's supposed to come up here this week so we can chop up a record. Because we had a couple of ideas we've been chopping back and forth. And yeah, I was just thinking about that, man. The Juice Crew. Yeah, and you can't separate it.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. But once again, family, thank you, Freedom, Half Pint, Brother James, Master Agent. Will be the real exit. We're gonna exit now and let you go and get to your family. But thank you once again, my brother, and God willing, we will stay in contact with you. We'll build with you. We'll work with you. Anything that you need from us, we're just a phone call away. Let us know. We right there with you, brother. We family. Thank you all once again for another beautiful Sunday evening. Next week, we'll be blessed with the legendary Willie D from the Ghetto Boys. Will join the conference call, this live discussion podcast. Until next week, family, enjoy the rest of your evening. Peace and love. Appreciate y'all. Thank you, brother. Peace.
Go to work. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. And we will resume next Sunday. Thank you again, Mario Vaughn, for the assistance with the speaker. You know how I forgot about the speaker. I was going to go into that conference room, but they were in there already. So I had came from Battle Cats event on 6th Street down there. Okay, go to work.